In today's tutorial, we're going to work on the Crochet Family Moccasins. This is 5 sizes, all within one pattern. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as Yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today we're going to work on the Crochet Family Moccasins, and this is a great little pattern, and there's 5 different sizes available. Inside this pattern you'll see different colors, and we'll talk about that as well. So it starts off with shoe sizes 3 to 4 in the children's range, going all the way to adults of 11 to 12. These sizes are all in women's shoe sizes, so just be compensating for that. If you're doing a men's size, you just got to make sure that you do the conversion of that as well. So I'm a size 8 men's, so that makes me a size 10 ladies, so that just I just have to use then the large there in order to do that. So you just got to make sure that you are compensating for that. Let me tell you a little bit more about this pattern, and then we're going to get into teaching all sizes available in today's pattern. So like all patterns that Yarnspiration does, they have different color codes when there's different sizes in a pattern. So you see that here's all the sizes. So this is the yarn that they're asking for you to do. So this is the nice thing about this. This does not take up a lot of yarn, but this is the Bernat Softy Chunky here, and it is 100 grams or 3.5 ounces, whichever measurement you prefer. And then you can see in the extra small, it's just one ball that you need, and this does both of them. Okay, so it's one ball that does both, and it's except for the large and the extra large, you need 2 balls in order to compensate. Of course it's a bigger slipper. Then you're going to need Bernat Pipsqueak. Now you don't need a big ball like I'm about to show you. This is the big size format, but this is Pipsqueak. It's fuzzy, it's fun, and I just using white on mine. So you can have a lot of fun with that, and you can find these in most retailers as well. So let's dive a little more into this pattern, and let's see what else you're going to get into today. So as we look closer at the pattern, you'll see that there is different colors, and I've already pointed those out. So whenever you're working on a certain size, you want to concentrate on those numbers. So for example, right here in the sole it says chain 11, 13, 15, 17, or 19. Which one are you going to do? You're going to do the color that matches the one that you want to do. So I did the medium off camera just to make sure I understood this pattern. So my medium was in a green color, and what I decided to do is that I went through the pattern and I highlighted every one that was in green with this marker so that I never miss every time there's a decision to be made. So whenever it tells you that there needs to be a decision, then it's going to give you a different digit. So this pattern you have to follow along if you're doing anything other than medium. I am going to show the medium size today, but you just have to follow these along. But there's also an easier way to be able to follow along as well, and that's the crochet diagrams that are available on page number 2. Let's look at those. So on page number 2 there's 2 diagrams. Don't worry about my handwritten notes. These are me checking off the rounds as I went along. And so what I had today is that you got the sole is extra small and the sole is size small. Can you tell me the difference between these two of them? And if you're not sure, the secret is actually that it's the distance of this middle. So this is just showing you, see how it's turning around and going around here? It's exactly the same that's happening here. So the only difference between this one here and this one is the distance of these single crochet right in the middle. So let me tell you a little bit more about that. I blew it up, and I'm going to talk about that next. So here's a blown up version of the diagram. So what you want to pay attention to is the turning radius over here and over here. So we're going to start here right at the slip knot here, our slip stitch, and then we're going to start, and then we're going to turn the corner and whip it right back around. I'm going to show you a very easy way to be able to do that without all this excessive counting. Now these that you saw in the pattern are available, and they're all the same on the outside turn here, all the way in extra small, small, medium. Okay, so 3 sizes all have the same radius going all the way around. Okay, and so you just can ignore this middle section here because of just the sizes of extra small, small, and medium. There's just more single crochets to make it longer. That's it. So what about large, extra large? Let me show you that, and then I'm going to come back to this. So this diagram, and I'm going to put both diagrams available on the Crochet Crowd website for this particular pattern. So what happens on the large and extra large is that there's an extra revolution of getting bigger, and so what I've done is that I just deleted the last round that was in there, that was in the other diagram, and I show how it's expanding. So the next round, round number 6, that it's asking you to do, see it's telling you to do 2 here, and I've just laid it out for you. So don't worry about what's the distance over here. Okay, don't worry about that. You're only worrying about the radius going all the way around and keeping it consistent. So you'll see over here, you'll see where it starts to branch off to get a little bit bigger, and I show you exactly where it is. So I show you that there's branches of this fluorescent color going all the way on the turns. What does that exactly mean? Well, let me show you that consistency, because we're gonna be using that in today's tutorial as your marker instead of having to count excessively all the time. So coming back to my other sheet, and both sheets are similar other than, see, this has a different round right here, and the other one, what I did is that I just showed you it one more round, round number 6, and then it shows a very similar round to what you see here. So you're gonna see these branching off of fluorescent colors. So what this is showing you like the veins, or maybe even the slices of pie if you want to call it, and every time that the pattern has you branching off, so for example we have a single crochet, but the next time we come into that single crochet it branches off. See that there's 2? The next time you're doing this same one here, it branches off. There's 2. It branches off. There's 2. So what I did is that I highlighted all the line to show you where all the branching is happening, and because of that it makes it a lot more easier to follow. So in order to do this, and if you did the hot dog snuggle sack with me, we did the same concept. So you can count all of these stitches, because this will be different on all the sizes. But if you're strategic with your stitch marker and place a stitch marker in the first one that turns, you don't have to count all this. You just got to look for it, and that's where you're gonna put the double every time you go to do it. So there's more branches just to show you that where they're branching, but you don't need to put stitch markers there. And then you should put a stitch marker in this branch over here, because this branch again is branching off. So after you follow the set of instructions just like you see over here, you'll come back, but instead of having to count all these and find this one again, if you mark it with a stitch marker you can just rely on that and get it accurate each and every time, and that just makes a whole lot of sense. So you want to move your stitch markers, whether it's this size or the other size, in this spot here just before you come back in, and the first time that you're gonna hit it. And if I show you the sample that I worked on, this is exactly what you saw over here. So this is the back of the shoe over here. Obviously I stepped on something, and what we have here is that you can see that the marker is coming out, and then here this is the marker. So if you're comparing the two, this over here is right here, and this one over here is right here, and because of that I was able to keep it completely in balance just like that. So as we begin to start this pattern today, you're going to all start off with different chains depending on what size that you're working on. I'm going to do the size medium. So just remember that the ends are always going to be the same all the way for extra small, small, and medium, and you're going to follow this. But if you're doing the large or extra large, you're going to follow the same thing. The only difference is that I applied and show you where the rest of these are, and you can print these off and mark this sheet up if you want to, and because of that it will make it a lot easier for you to be able to follow. So I want to show you a couple more things. I highlighted in blue where those two pieces are. So once we get all the way done to this round, okay, the outside rounds that we are going to start working on here, and we're going to be putting stitches together, you can see it over here as well. If you mark these two, these are the absolute center point of the slipper. So if I'm looking at the thing here, right here, this piece here is added on afterward, but sometimes it's hard to get a hold of that and see exactly where it is. So what you want to do is you want to mark your 2 stitches before doing this area, so that you know exactly where this is in the center point. The first time I ever put this together I was off by 2 stitches, and the whole slipper was malfunctioning, and because it was malfunctioning I just didn't get the center point. So I think it's helpful for you in the very last time, and we'll cover this as we come, is that if you mark those 2 you'll have the center point of your slipper so that you can get that right each and every time. So final words, when you're starting this, just highlight the numbers that you want to work with today, and you can follow these set of instructions, and the diagram is working for all of the sizes except for large and extra large. Then you have to use the one that I made here in order to get round number 6 here before continuing. So there's only a difference of 1 extra round for doing the large or extra large. So let's begin. Let's grab our size 6mm size J crochet hook today, and then let's grab our Bernat Softy Chunky and let's get going. So as we begin our first chain, what we're going to do is that we're going to start off and we're going to chain. So we're going to start here, and then what we're going to do is then on round number 1 we're going to come up and we're going to come back, circle around that chain, and come on the opposite side of the chain and circle back. So just as one of those really interesting ones that we have to establish the first turn, and we're going to do that here as we start to chain and do round number 1. Make sure you also have 2 stitch markers available to you, just spare string, and those will help you to keep everything in balance. So as already stated, I'm doing the size medium today, and I'm gonna maintain that so I have a pair. So what I'm gonna do here is it says chain 15. If you're doing the other size, just look what the number is on the pattern and do that chain number instead. So let's chain 15. So just continue. Remember, the first one never counts as 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and go all the way to the number you want. In my case, it'll be 15. So let's begin working along the center chain. So let's begin, and we're going to just start second chain from the hook. So just count back. So 1 and 2, turn it over, get the back loop only of the chain. It just makes it easier, and just single crochet. So you're gonna do that one. So you don't have to count. You can just go all the way to the end of the chain that you have on your going on right now. But the very last stitch, you need to put in 3 single crochets to make that revolution turn around. You're gonna notice that this will grow really quickly because this is bulky yarn, and it's gonna turn out really quite fabulous. So I'll meet you at the end of this this row here. So I'll meet you on this side here. I'll show you how to place your stitch marker because now's the time, and then I'll show you what to do from that point. So I'm coming up to the end of the chain, and I only have 1 more. So the last chain that we have is that I have to put in 3 single crochets. So watch. So put in 1, okay, and then put in 2, and put in 3. Now I want you to stop right here. I want you to place your stitch marker in the 3rd one. So just count back. So 1, 2, and 3, and just insert your hook underneath and grab a stitch marker and pull that through. So whenever you come back now, this will be the starting revolution of the starting branch. Instead of you having to count all these coming back, this will be where it'll happen. So now just put this back on the hook and come down the opposite side. So just working your way down the opposite side of the chain. Okay, so I just turned it upside down. I'm putting the straggler down in the middle so that it gets stuck underneath, and I'm single crocheting myself all the way back. Now the very final chain is only gonna have 2 single crochets. Why do you think there's only 2 in there and not 3? Well, we started off with putting 1 single crochet second chain from the hook. That is your 1 there, and so by coming to the end of the chain and adding 2, you eventually get your 3 that you need in order to do the revolution around. So that's why you would do that. So I'm just coming up all the way to the end, well, pretty close to it. I'm just gonna move the straggler out of the way. It's buried enough for me to be satisfied, and I'm just continuing just like that, and this is the very last one. So this one here I'm gonna place in 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2, and I want to join it to the first one right here. Okay, so that is your 3 all working together. So before you continue, just take this out and count the second one back. So 1 and 2, that is your stitch marker then for this side of your work. So now you can just do your magic over here, and then you don't have to count. You can look for the stitch marker and then just keep moving that as we go. So that's how you do the round number 1. So I have my stitch markers in place, and now I'm ready to move on to round number 2. So I'm back on round number 2. So round number 2, you're gonna see that we're gonna chain up 1, and there will be 2 single crochets into the first one. So that completes this revolution as it comes around, and then we're just gonna keep going along, and right where that stitch marker is, right where here, you're gonna place in 2, but this time when you go to move the stitch marker, you're gonna want it on the second one, and then you're just gonna do the magic. So just every time you're just gonna put 2 into each one, and then you're gonna zip along and come back, and right where the stitch marker is, you're gonna put in 2, and then again move up that stitch marker and then zip around. So let's begin round number 2. So let's begin round number 2. So we're gonna chain up 1. So essentially in round number 2, each one of the 3 that we did in the end is all gonna have 2 single crochets when you boil that all down. So the very first one that we're gonna have is that it's gonna be 2 single crochets in there. So that is the finishing of the revolution when you come all the way back around. And now you're just gonna zip along, and you can count if you want to, but I don't see the point to. If you got your stitch markers in, you can save a ton of time and just use the visual cue of the stitch marker. And you're just gonna move along until you run into that next stitch marker that you did. Chances are if you're following today's video, you're gonna use this concept. So if you would like the actual count, you can just refer to it on the pattern that's been provided to you and the more information of this video. So I'm looking for where that first stitch marker is, so I know where that branch is, where it's gonna start turning off. So here it is now. So this one's gonna have 2 single crochets, but watch what I do. So I put 1 and 2, and before I go any further I want to move the stitch marker to the last one that was just in there. Okay, so that's the second one of the 2, and if you look at the diagram and follow my fluorescent up, that's exactly where you want to put it. So the next 2 single crochets that you have are going to be 2 into each. Okay, so the next 2 stitches are 2 single crochets each, so 1 and 2, and then the next one is 1 and 2. See, and now you got your stitch marker ready for the next time you come back across, and now you're just gonna zip on down the line now back to the other side. You can use cues like this. I'm a huge advocate of trying to simplify the process, trying to make it easier for you. Nobody wants to sit in front of a television and count, and you got people running all over the place, and TV is quite interesting. So if you can look for visual cues and actually implement them, you'll make yourself a lot quicker. So I'm gonna run into the next stitch marker real soon, which is next, and so in that one there, in round number 2, it's gonna be 2 single crochets, so 1 and 2, and remember you have to move that stitch marker, and it's gonna be the second one you did, so it's the first one back from underneath the loop. Move that stitch marker up, so just you'll have a line then trailing up. So that's 1 of 2. The next one is gonna have 2 single crochets. And remember how we started, that we started off with 2 single crochets right away. So then this you're just gonna join to the first single crochet. So essentially you have your 2, 2 and 2. So that concludes round number 2. So round number 3 we're gonna start off. So what's gonna happen is we go on, you see that these branches out get further apart from each other, and there's single crochets that fill them in. So in round number 3 when we go to start is that there's gonna be 1 single crochet by itself, and then there's gonna be 2, and then you're gonna zip along, and then right where the stitch marker is you're gonna put 2, and then there's 1 that separates it, and then another 2, 1 that separates it, and another 2. So it's just kind of an easy way to be able to look at this, and I'm gonna have you now look at the sheet for the remainder of this area, but I am going to do all the steps with you on camera. But you can see that there's just gonna be a difference of added single crochets between the branches when we go to do it. So let's begin round number 3. So let's begin round number 3. We're gonna chain up 1 in the first one that we have where we've done the join, is that there's gonna be 1 single crochet that sits by itself, and then the next one will have 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. So now you're just gonna zip along back to the front. So right where the stitch markers are right where you're doing the joining on these rounds is the back of the heel, just so that you're aware of that. The sole is completely equal as far as sizing on either side, so there's no special shaping, and there's no special shaping if it's right or left either. They're both the same. So I'm looking for the visual cue then of that stitch marker that is waiting for me once I get over to this side. Just right there. So it's next. So there's gonna be 2 into this one, and move that stitch marker up into the second one that you just did. Okay, so move that stitch marker up to the one just under the loop, and so you have that ready to go next time. This is round number 3. And now next one is 1 single crochet by itself. The next one has 2 single crochets. The next one is 1 by itself, and then the next one has 2. So there's like 3 sections that you have to do. So there's like 2 by itself, or 2 in the same, 1 and then 2, and then 1 and 2. So now you're just gonna zip along to the other side back to where you had started. So just 1 single into each. So you can see that I can continue to talk and just not have to count with you, but if you want to count, that's completely your business. You can save yourself a lot of time if you don't have to. I don't know. I'm one of those people, I can't chew gum and walk at the same time. Don't ask me, I don't know. Okay, so let's continue, and here's the stitch marker as we come back to the beginning. So the stitch marker obviously will have 2 in there because that's what I've got you to do, and now you're just gonna move that stitch marker up to the one right underneath it. Okay, and then there's 1 by itself, so the next one is by itself, and then the next one here, which is the last one, is gonna be 2 single crochets. So just watch that you don't think that this is an extra stitch here. This is just it leaning over. So, and then just join it to the top just like that, and that was round number 3. Let's move on to round number 4. So round number 4 we're going to chain up 1, and the first 2 that you're going to run into, so coming right into the first one and the next one are just going to be 1 single crochet by itself, and then the next one has 2. So 1 and 2. So this time there's going to be 2 single crochets that separate the groups of 2. So let's just zip along now to the other side, just going down. And these are pretty easy to do. I was so surprised on how fast it took me to do these. If I didn't have to teach it, I'd probably be done this bottom area right now. Not that I'm complaining, I'm just saying. If I don't have to talk myself through the steps, it gets quicker. So here's the stitch marker, so there's going to be 2 into that one. And we're going to move that stitch marker up again. It's the one right just before you finished. Just looking for where that is. Spare yarn comes in great handy. It's nice cheating techniques. So this time then there's going to be 2 single crochets in a row, and then the next one is going to be 2 into the same one. So 1 and 2, and then the next 2 are by themselves, so 1 and 2, and then the next one is 2 into the same one. Okay, so now we're going to move down the other side to where we had started. Now you'll notice on this as I'm talking to you is that the Bernat Softy Chunky actually calls for an 8mm size L crochet hook, but we're only using a 6mm size J. And the difference is that the smaller hook is causing these stitches to compress and compact, so therefore it's making this nice and durable and solid as a result of using a smaller hook. Okay, so I'm looking for the stitch marker as my indication of where the next one will be. This is round number 4. So then there's going to be 2 right where the stitch marker is. And move that stitch marker up. Just like that. And then there's 2 in a row, remember, that are by themselves. So 1 and 2. And look, the next stitch, which is your last one, is going to be 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. And then you just join it to the top of the first single crochet to conclude round number 4. So let's do round number 5 together. So round number 5, what the difference is, now there's going to be 3 singles that stand by themselves and then 2. So let's chain up 1. So the first 3 are going to be 1 single each. 1, 2, and 3. And then the next one will have 2 into this one. So as we get bigger in the circle, that's what you need to do. So right now I'm just going to single crochet, and I'm going to cut away this video, and I'm going to meet you over here in the first stitch marker right there. So I'm coming over here, and the stitch marker is coming right up, and that one's going to be, this is round number 5. I'm going to show you number 6 for those that want to see that as well. So this is this is where the stitch marker is, so there's going to be 2. Again, move up that stitch marker just like that. Okay, and then you're just going to do 3 in a row that are by themselves. So 1, 2, and 3. And then you're going to do 2 into the next one, and then the next 3 are by themselves. So 1, 2, and 3, and then the next one is 2 by themselves, or 2 into the same one, sorry. So now you're just going to zip along to the first stitch marker when you come back all the way in this revolution. Okay, so I'm coming all the way to where I've started, and this is the first stitch marker. Then I started here, if you remember, and there's going to be 2 into here, and move up that stitch marker once again. Okay, and we're going to use that stitch marker as an aid then in the next time we go around, and continue. Then there's going to be 3 in a row, so 1, 2, and 3, and the very final stitch is going to be 2 into the same one. So for those doing the extra small, small, and medium, this is where you're going to stop at this point, and I'm going to demonstrate then round number 6 is if it's doing a large or extra large, just to make sure those people have an opportunity. So if you're doing extra small, small, or medium right now, do not do the next step I'm about to show you. So for those doing the large to extra large, you're going to want to follow the sheet that I provided to you with these on here, and you will see then last time in round number 5 we had 1, 2, and 3 single crochets by themselves. This time there'll be 4 and then it will branch, and then you're gonna work your way all the way to the stitch marker once again, and then branch off, and just like that. Okay, so I want to show you, see how I turned the angle right here? I want you on round number 6, for those that are doing this size, I want you to put your stitch marker into the first one, not to the second, because you're gonna use that as your opportunity to be able to compress this. So when you do 2 together, you're gonna use that as your starting point. So once you get to here, and you can see this, those 2 will come together just like that. And you want to do the same with the other side. Then do you see where it's branching off right here? You want to do the same thing right there. Okay, so let's begin, and let's start round number 6 with you, and then make sure extra small, small and medium people are not doing this round. Okay, large and extra large people, let's get going. We're gonna chain up 1, and then we're just gonna put 1 into the first one and to the next 3. So there's gonna be 4 by itself. So this is 2, 3 and 4, and then coming into the next one is gonna be 2 into the same one. So now you're just gonna zip along with single crochets all the way until you get to the stitch marker over here, and I'll see you there in just a moment. Remember, this is only large and extra large people only. So I'm coming up near to where the stitch marker is. Okay, so there's the stitch marker. We're gonna put in 2, but watch what we're gonna do slightly differently if you remember what I just said. So it's not gonna be the one you just did, it's the 1 second back, and it's gonna be, that's where the stitch marker is, and this will give you an indication where you have to do the next line around, or the next round. So now there's gonna be 4 into the 1 into the next 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then the next one has 2. So 1 and 2, and the next one has 4. So there's 4 into the 1 into the next 4. So 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and then 2 into the next one. Okay, and now you're just gonna continue now to single crochet all the way to back to where you started. Okay, and this is the first stitch marker here. I'll see you there in just a moment. So I'm just coming back to where the stitch marker is. Again, this is large, extra large size only, and right where the stitch marker is, I want you to put in 2, and this time for the stitch marker I want you to put in the stitch marker into the second one. Okay, so the one you just finished right there. I've got that indicated on the sheet as well. And put this back on. So there's 2 into that one, and so the next 4 will be by itself. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and you got 1 stitch left, and there's gonna be 2 into that one. So this is the conclusion then of this round, round number 6 for large and extra large. I'm going to continue one more round, which is the compression round, which is then going to make the bottom of the sole, and this is only for large and extra large size. And then what we're gonna do then after that is go back to the extra small, medium, small and medium. So back on the sheet here, you're going to notice a plus sign with a cursive underneath it, and this means that it's going to be in the back loops only. So this is going to create the sole shape in this round. But you know what, you got to watch this round, because you're going to notice that in this quadrant over here in the upper quadrant, there's going to be 3 stitches that come together. This causes compression, and then you're going to notice that there's going to be 3 over here as well. And right where I put the stitch markers, that's an indication of where you need to do it. So you don't see any compression happening here or here. It's only in this one and over here. So it's like diagonal to each other. So when we do these single crochets, we're only going to work in the back loops only to create that nice sole shape, but then we have to pay attention to the first stitch marker. So let's do this round first, and then I will carry you forward. Okay, so for large and extra large only, you're going to chain up 1, and into the same one that you did, you're only going to go into a back loop. So if you're new to crochet, see how there's 2 strands? Okay, if you only go into 1 strand and it's the closest to you, that's the front loop, and if you go into the one that is furthest to you, it's the back loop. So what you want to do is just come straight down and go into a back loop only, and you can count, but why bother if you've got those stitch markers working for you. So you're just going to continue in the back loops 1 single crochet until you get to that first stitch marker area that I'm going to show you what to do. And you're going to notice that it's going to create a line, but this causes the slipper to have a significant bend right at the bottom of the sole that gives you that classic look of a shoe. So you're just going to single crochet into the bottom, or sorry, back loop, and I'm going to meet you at the first stitch marker in a second. So the stitch marker is actually 2 stitches away, and if you looked at my diagram I had you put the stitch marker in and the first one of the 2. Do you remember that? So and if you look at it, there's 2 stitches that come together and this is the second stitch of the 2. So these 2 are gonna come together this time. So in order to do that you're just gonna wrap, or you're not gonna wrap the hook, you're just gonna go into the back loop of the next stitch, pull the yarn through and hold it, and then go into the next stitch just in the back loop only and pull it through and hold it. You now have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3. 2 just became 1. I need you to do that 2 more times. So come into the next one that's available to you, pull through, and the next one, pull through, and then pull through all 3 loops. So that's 2 of 3 that you need to do. Come into the next one, same thing, and next one, same thing, pull through all 3. So now you're gonna notice it's gonna compress. So now you're just gonna go continue now to the back loops until you get to the next stitch marker, which comes around, and you're gonna notice that this is gonna start bowling in on you because this is just the way it operates, and continue in the back loops only, single crochet till the next stitch marker, and I'll show you what to do from that point. And as you come around to where we started you're gonna run into the next stitch marker. So in this side, this one plus its friend is gonna be together. So go into that one where the stitch marker is, pull through, go into its friend, pull through all 3. Do the next 2 the same way. So 2 together, pull through, and then do the next 2. So now you have your 3 that are by itself, or 3 that have now just come together. You have only 1 stitch left, and that's gonna be by itself of single crochet, and then you just join it to the top of the first single crochet that you have. So this concludes then how to do the large and extra large size. You're gonna see that there's gonna be a bend, and that will be more obvious, but this is the size here. So if your foot does not fit comfortably in this right at this time, and if it's way too stretched, you know you're doing the wrong size at this time. So this is a really good way. So the only difference then of large and extra large is that large is slightly smaller, and large and extra large would be slightly wide or longer, but you would still have the same turns here. So at this time we're gonna go back to go get our friends in the extra small, small, and medium in order to show them how to get to this point. So for those that are working on the extra small to small or medium, I've just now ripped out my stitches to bring you back to where we left you. Okay, so the where we just were only for the large and extra large size. So let's bring you back to the diagram. This is row number 5 just finished here, and we're gonna then show you how to do the next round, which is gonna start doing the compression round. So in the next round what we're gonna do is that we're gonna chain up, and you're going to do you see these cursive things right here? That means it's a back loop. So I'm gonna show you that in just a moment. You're gonna notice that they're gonna do some compression of 3 2 together stitches over here, and then they're gonna appear over here. So what I want you to do is that I want you to look for that because you don't see it up here or here. So the compression is only happening on one quadrant over here and one quadrant over here. And hopefully that makes sense to you. So where I had you move the stitch marker, I want you to look for that because this one here, the second one, is gonna be into 2 together. So you don't need to count, you just gotta look for that, and then just do your 3 in a row, and then continue around, and right where you have the stitch marker over here, the second one of the 2 is going to be together just like that. Okay, so let's begin to do that. Let me show you what the back loops are, and let's get you started on this round. So in this round we're gonna then start the back loops, which creates the look of the sole. Okay, so let's begin. We're gonna chain up 1. So if you're new to crochet, there's always 2 strands. Now if you go into both, it's a stitch, but if you go to the first one only, it's a front loop, and if you go into the back one only, it's a back loop. So in order to create this sole shape, we have to go into the back loop only to create like a 90-degree really hard turn. So coming straight down underneath, just want to go into the back loop only and single crochet. So I want you to single crochet just 1 into each until you hit that first stitch marker. I'm gonna meet you just probably a couple stitches before that point and show you how to put those together, and we're gonna just single crochet continuous. So do you see it's creating a line now? This creates a bend, which creates then the lift up for the side of the sole. So let's meet you at the first stitch marker. So I'm now 2 stitches away from this stitch marker, so 1 and 2. If you looked at the diagram, the second where the stitch marker is the second one of the 2. So I want to put these 2 together. So just going in and pull through, and then go into the next one and pull through. You got 3 loops, you're gonna pull through all 3. So that just became 2 together. So we got to do this 2 more times. So into the next one, pull through, the next one after that, pull through all 3, and then do it 1 more time. So that pull through and that pull through, okay, and then just like that. So now you got 3 in a row that were together, and now you're just going to continue to back loop single crochet until you get close to the other stitch marker on the other side, and you're going to notice that this is going to start bending in quite significantly. You can see it's already happening to me, and that's exactly what you want, because now you're going to start going up the side of the sole. So let's continue, and I'll see you at the next stitch marker. So I'm coming up to the next one here. This is the stitch marker. So in the instructions you will see that where the stitch marker is plus the friend before it is going to become 2 together. So just going into the next one, pull through, and then this one has the stitch marker, pull through, and then pull through all 3. Do that again, 1 and 2, okay, and then do it again, okay, and you're left with 1 stitch, which is right, and that's just going to be 1 single crochet in the back loop only. So then you're just going to join it then to the top of the first single crochet that you had started with. So that concludes on how to do the sole area, and you just got to plop it like this, turn it in so that the right side is facing out and down, okay, and you will notice it will create like a boat shape. But what we need to do now before we continue, even for the extra large size, we need to locate the middle one right now. Before we move on in today's tutorial, I need you to mark the center points of these soles. They're harder to locate later. So what I want you to do is that you see where you have these are 2 together. This is in the extra large to extra large. See where it's 2 together and then 1 by itself. I want you to mark those 2 with a stitch marker. That's the middle of the front of the foot. For the other size, for extra small and medium, again same spot, mark those 2. So what I want to do, right where I did the slip stitch right at the end, okay, just come to the opposite side. You can pull out the stitch marker now and just look at it from a head-on point of view, okay, and if you want to look at it from a straight down point of view, that's up to you. And what you want to do is that these 2 right here in the middle are your stitch markers. So what I'm going to do is just put a string in both sides, and so when I'm ready to do this and I need to locate the center of the shoe, I can look at that and say, yeah, that's the center, because I can confirm that as of right now. You can take out the other stitch marker that is currently in the back, and we can then move on and start the rest of this shoe or the slipper. So for all sizes now, what we're gonna do, remember we were working on it like this, so I flipped it. So now the right side is facing down, so this is the inside where your foot will sit. So what I want to do now is the next 2 rounds, this is true for all sizes, you're gonna chain up 1 and you're just gonna do 1 single crochet into each stitch. Please do that for 2 rounds, and what this is gonna do is gonna build up the side of the shoe or the side of the slipper. It looks like a shoe to me, that's why I keep calling it a shoe, like a penny loafer or something. So okay, so just go all the way around and I'll meet you at the end of this revolution and do it once again with you. As you go around, I haven't gone around all the way wet, but I'm now heading the front of the shoe. Do you see where we put the stitch markers? Just ignore those. Just pretend that you don't even see them. Just go right over them. Okay, just don't get them stuck in your stitches by grabbing a ply or anything. Just leave them right where they are. They just are a marker for you for the future. So continue just to go all the way around, single crochet. So I'm coming around to the back of the shoe or the back of the slipper, and I'm just going 1 single crochet into each. Remember that that's not a stitch here, that's part of this first one here, and we want to slip stitch to the beginning just like that. Okay, and let's do 1 more round. So just chain up 1 single crochet into each again all the way around for round number 2, and I won't stop midway. I'll see you at the end of this round. I'm coming up to the very final stitch here, and don't forget that's not a stitch here. Okay, it looks like it is, but it's not. It's part of that first one. You'll add an extra stitch if you think that it is. So just watch that, and you're just going to join with a slip stitch. So now you've got like a boat shape going on, and now you're done. So what you need to do is then fasten off this yarn. So let's trim our yarn and let me show you what to do. You want to fasten it off nicely. You don't want to do a hack job on that. So just pulling it through, and I want you to grab a darning needle. Because you are going to be wearing this, or somebody you love is going to wear them, you want to make sure that you take extra precaution for these tails. So just insert them into a darning needle just like this, and if you put your work in so that it goes through the stitches 3 times back and forth, you'll never have them falling out. So just coming in and just gliding up underneath the stitches, so don't impede that top edge at all, because that's going to be visible to you. It actually won't be actually with these particular designs, but usually it is. So it's just gonna be going across. So go 1, going back in the other direction through a different path different set of fibers for 2, and then finally, just I want to grab that before it falls off. So this is 2, and then finally just come back in the other direction for 3. Just want to take your time and get them in. So what you can do, because you've gone back now 3 times back and forth, you can trim it right down to the project. You don't ever have to worry about that falling out on you. Just like that. So here's your boat shape, and now this indicates the front of your shoe, and now we're about to start something absolutely new. So let's begin to try and do that next. So we're now beginning to do this part of the tutorial. So this is a top piece that is done afterward as a single crochet round to create that lip that you see in the model's foot. So what we want to do is that each size has a different size. So we have a different chains depending on the size, and I want you to look at the pattern for that. It's either 9, 10, or 11, and we're gonna go back and forth for a certain amount, and then we're gonna start decreasing as we get then to the toe. This is a piece that's done afterward, and then we have to apply it to this to the actual slipper here. We have to apply it, and right where I had you do the front here is where the front of this piece will sit. So what I want you to do then is that I want you to pay attention to what we're about to do next. So let's put the slipper away for a second, and let's do the top piece. So I did the medium. In my case it's chain 10. So if you have a different size, then you'll have to do a different size then of chain. So we're just gonna chain, and let's begin. This is so simple, it's gonna go quick on you. So it's gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So row number 1, it's 1 single crochet, second chain from the hook, and a single crochet in each. So go 1 and 2, second back, and you want to turn it over and get the back loop only, and you're gonna single crochet yourself across this chain. Okay, so do that, and I'll see you back on the other side. So now that I'm on the other side of the chain, I just want to turn my work and do row number 2. So row number 2 is just chain up 1, and it's 1 single into each. So the remaining of the rows that we have to do depend on the size that you have, and those are in the instructions. So you're either gonna have to repeat 4 times, 5, 6, 7, or 8, and all this is, it's actually telling you how deep your top is to where it's gonna grow up. Okay, in actual fact you're starting up here and working your down, and then you're gonna taper in. So that's what those repeat rows are. So in my case I have to repeat a total of 6 times after I get this row number 2 done. So I just gotta do across here, and then just turn my work and do 6 rows of just single crochet back and forth. So I'm gonna have you look at the pattern and do how many rows that you need to do, and so you just have to repeat it either 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 times. And I will see you back here after I get 6. So I'm now back, and I had repeated my rows 6 times. Okay, so you have a total there, and it's actually not hard to do. So depending on what size you did, if you were doing a smaller size, this will be shorter, and if you're doing a larger size, this will be longer. Okay, obviously it makes sense. So now we're gonna move to the next row. So the next row is about doing the point towards the top. So it's gonna start pointing in, and this is where it's gonna lead then to the top of the slipper if you're looking at it. So we're gonna do the point coming in, and we're gonna start decreasing stitches in order to do that. So to do that, let's just begin, and I'm gonna show you the row, and then you have to repeat it the number of times that it states. So we're going to then chain up 1, and the first 2 are gonna be to come together. So the first 2 stitches going in, pull through, and in, pull through. Okay, so that you want the first stitch and the second stitch, pull through all 3 like so. Now you're just gonna single crochet yourself until you get to the final 2 stitches. So do you hear me counting? No, you don't really need to count, because all you just need to do is just look for the last 2. So 1 and 2, and put those 2 together. Just like that. Okay, so now it says, now that we've done that, it says repeat this the last row, and then it says the number of times. So it's either 2, 2, 3, or 4. So for the medium it was 3. So I'm just gonna turn my work and just continue. So chain up 1, the first 2 become together, just like that, and then you just carry on, just 1 into each, and then the final 2 is going to be together, and it's gonna really come in on you real quick, just like that. So that was 1 of 3. Turn our work, chain 1, first 2 are together, just like that, and then you just keep single crocheting across until you run into the next 2, which happens to be the next 2 right there, Okay, so this was 2 of 3. Turn our work again, chain up 1, put the first 2 together, and you're left with 1 stitch left, and that's just 1 single crochet by itself, like that. So do you see the point? Just like that. So what I want to do is that I want to fasten this off, and you think I'm gonna use a nice darning needle to sew that in? You bet your boots I am. So what I want to do is that I not only want to do this one here really nicely, but I want to do this one as well. So using the technique I've already showed you, put it onto the darning needle, hide in those ends, because this here is then going to go onto the top of the shoe, and if you have it nice and woven in and out of the way, it'll look a lot better and easier to make. So right now I'm at the point where I have the top piece done. If I were you and you were me, I would do these as a pair. So for example, I would have done both soles at the same time, and then I would do 2 of these at the same time, and then put them together at the same time, and then do the white fluff. That's what I would do, because you can guarantee that if you put one of these in here, you can count the number of stitches, because once you put this fluff in, you're not going to be able to count your stitches at all in order to get it to being accurate. So what you want to do is that you want to use some stitch markers then is to hold it. And remember that we had the first part here. Well, those 2 stitches here, I'm going to use that as my advantage, and I'm just gonna pull those up. So I'm just gonna pull them straight up. So it's almost like the green Friendly Giant, just go straight up, way up. I don't know if that's a Canadian show or not, but I remember it as a kid. So I'm gonna go up, way up, like this. Okay, so now I still have my center point. It's pretty close to it to call it the center point. And what I want to do is that I want to place, there's 3 stitches, remember, at the very front of this. So what I want to do is just insert my hook in and pull that 1 stitch marker through, like that, and I want to pull the other one through on the other one. So this is the second one of the 2. These stitch markers at this point are gonna save you in order for you to have to rip apart your slipper like I did. So if something is going wrong, you're gonna see it right now. And what I would do is just tie this into a bow. It just is gonna hold it from taking off on you. I tried doing other ways, and it was just coming apart on me. So now you have the first part in. So what you want to do is just turn it sideways and just kind of eye it up. Okay, and this is why I would do both of these at the same time, and because you could actually do a pair like this, and then all of a sudden you realize that they're not equal to each other. Okay, so you would, what I would do is probably just look it up here and just kind of match it. So with the extra stitch markers coming into the top of there, and just kind of eyeing it up, getting it as close as you can to being perfect. Just count your stitches if you have to. And what I would do is count your stitches. Once you do 1, I would count your stitches in the back section. So I would count around the back here. So do 1 and tie it into a bow. Again, if you keep it relatively snug, it's just easier to keep this all in balance in the next round. And then do the other side. So just kind of eyeing it up straight across. So going in, and straight across. So now that I'm doing this and tying it, if it looks deformed in any way, you're going to be able to tell right away, and you can move your stitch markers now if you have to. Okay, so this is going to hold it down for you when you go around it. So that's kind of what it looks like at this point. Okay, so what I want to do now is that I want to start the next revolution. We're going to start right in the back and go around, but we're going to create this lip as we do that, as we come around the front and then come back around to the other side. So let's do that round next. Starting on the back of the slipper, I want to create a slip knot, and I want to begin and go right into the very back. Okay, right into the back, straight back, and I want you to join the yarn and then chain up 1 and 1 single into the same stitch. I want you to keep the straggler down on top of the line so that it can get stuck underneath, and I want you just to single crochet into every stitch that you hit. Now right where you've done that tie here, that's when we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to go between this layer and the top layer and attach both of them together at the same time with the single crochet. and that's what gives it that characteristic lip right at the very front of the slipper. So I'm just burying that loose end as I go, gets it out of the way and out of sight. So I'm just continuing along, just one single crochet into each, and the next one here I'm looking at it, see, so I was kind of one off, so I'm gonna go into the very first one. Okay, so this is the back of the sole, do you see that? And then I want to go into the top of the shoe, the top area. Okay, and I want to pull the yarn through, so I'm getting both of them into position and then single crochet them together. Once you have that in, you can take out that stitch marker to be out of your way. So don't take them all out, just take out that first one. And now you're just gonna continue to move around into each stitch. And the goal is just sandwiching them together to create that look. The trick is not to get, make sure that you get all the plies that you need to get. Like I just grabbed something I shouldn't have grabbed. You always know when you have extra stuff on your hook, you can feel the added tension to it. Okay, so let's take a look at the top of my work here. So you can see it's creating that look. So I'm just moving around on the stitches that are on the side of the sole and just matching it to the top of that top piece there. And I'm gonna be hitting a stitch marker real soon. This will be the very the front. Now all the sizes are done in this. I didn't say that, but I pretty much assumed that you would know that. Okay, so I'm just continuing to go around. Okay, and then there's the next stitch marker there, and it's Buddy. So what I'm gonna do is just go in there. I'm gonna take this out to get that out of my way. So the two front are now in the front, and what I want to do before I carry on is that I want to make sure that's still true. Okay, so I'm looking at it. Okay, so it's at the halfway point. Do you see that? And now I want to continue around the other side. So just continuing along and just moving across. So this is not a very hard part. I guess the trick is to make sure, because you got two of them, you want them to be equal. So you just gotta, I would do it in like an assembly line, like they're making shoes, to make sure that each of the steps are equal to each other and the same size. Therefore you don't end up with a slipper where one's bigger than the other. I've been known to do that more than once, let me tell you, especially on kids' booties. Especially if you miss one stitch, it's amazing the difference it can make. So I'm coming up to the end here, and this is the final one here. But we're not done going all the way around. Even though we've only secured that top, remember we didn't start here, we started on the back. So now I'm just letting it go. Okay, do you see that? So now I'm just working along the back here, and I just want to join it then to the first single crochet that I did, and then you're going to fasten off once again, and you're going to weave in your ends and get that all nice and done. And we're getting close to actually being done. That's kind of the nice thing about it too. It's pretty quick. Okay, and coming right into the last one, I got one more stitch to do, and then just join it. So before you fasten off, make sure that your shoe looks like it's gonna be lined up properly. The first time I ever did it, I was off in the front by a little bit, and I realized that this was actually kind of ajar a little bit. So I'm going to fasten this off. I'm gonna weave in my ends, and then we're gonna begin the next part, which is the fluff. So let's move on to doing the cuff. Now the cuff is actually really quite interesting. This is the second time that I've had to film this. The video was actually released and then there was a pattern change, but it was such a big change that I couldn't leave the video up. So what we have here is that we have to apply the cuff, and originally the cuff came from the top down and then from the top down into the inside, but now it's been revised so that it now comes up from the bottom of the sole up and over and inside. And if you look at the models that way she's wearing it, you know that's true. So let's grab our pipsqueak yarn today, and we're going to then apply the cuff, and this is actually really quite easy, and you'll see that it works out pretty quickly as well. So let's begin, and grab your 6mm size J crochet hook today in order to do this. So put the yarn on your hook with a slip knot just like so, and now we're going to then look at the slipper here, the moccasin. So what I want you to do is follow it straight across and then down, okay, and I want you to go to the front loop. So just follow it, so just look where it stops and follow it down, and right here, see this line here, these are your front loops of your work. So following it straight down, and you can just choose one. So there we go. So don't get the same one in there, just shift over one and come over like so, and insert into the front loop. So what I want you to do is just fasten on the yarn, so just pulling it through. Now pipsqueak is a bit of a challenge to work with, I'm not gonna deny that, so it'll take you a little bit getting used to if you've never worked with it before. I just pull it through as a fasten on. So using this straggler here, you want to kind of bury it in. So what you want to do is that you want to work along these front loops here down in the sole, and you're going to single crochet. So leave this down on top of it so it gets stuck underneath. And if you're experienced to crochet, this is not going to be a big deal. So what you're going to do here is that you're going to work all the way around until you get to the other side of where it stops. So you're gonna follow it across, and then you're gonna stop when you get to the other side over here. So just single crochet yourself along the bottom of the front loops of the sole here area, and I'll meet you back here in just a moment. So I'm coming up all the way around, you can see that a trace, and what I want to do is kind of look straight across because that's where it should be on the other side as well. So I'm gonna go one more, and that's it. Okay, so it kind of looks like a horseshoe at this point. So you're gonna turn your work, and now all you're just gonna do is work in the rows back and forth till it gets about 4 inches. So this is gonna build up, and it's gonna come up over top of this and fold right back down into the base here, and then after that we're gonna then use a darning needle and sew this together so it's like sandwiched in around the top of this cuff area. So to start the next row, you're gonna chain 1, and then coming into each stitch you're going to begin to single crochet back and forth, and I want you to go back and forth for that 4 inches, but of course you can make your own judgments if you want to do more stitches or less. It's up to you, but just make sure that it comes up and over and then back down and then hits the base area right inside the shoe right here. So I'll see you back here in just a moment. So now I'm done here at the cuff area, but before you sew this into position you need to do the tie first. So let's move on to the tie, and what I've done here with the tie is that I've went in here, and when you see me do it before you notice that I would have lifted the cuff, but that's because it's a different video, and all you just need to do is chain your 50 and then just weave it in on the outside here, and therefore this can be tieable at the front and match your foot size here as well. So go and do that first, and then what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna fasten off this yarn long enough that you can make it into a darning needle in order to sew it permanently into position. So I'll see you back here in just a moment. So now it's time to create the tie. So I did a chain of 50 before, and I noticed it was really tight. So if you want to add extra chains you can do so, and this is just woven into the interior and the exterior here underneath this cuff. So all you just need to do is just grab your yarn that matches the color, and if you want to do a different color tie, that's certainly your business, and you can just chain. It says to 50 and it says for all sizes, but I would have done a little bit more if it were me. So just chain and go all the way to 50. Meet me back here in just a moment. Okay, once you get your 50 done, which I have, I want to leave an extra little bit of string here. You're going to use that to your advantage and just trim it, and then just pull that strand through the final loop, and that'll lock that and pull it nice and tight. Okay, do the same to the other side, just pull it nice and tight. So now what I want to do is I want to start on the front of the shoe, and about see just about so these are ties, so this will just be what kind of makes it make or break for you. So you want the ties to come out from the center, so you're just gonna come up from the interior like this, okay, and now what you want to do is that you just want to pull through, and using the tie on the other side, this piece over here, I want you to weave in and out now. So just coming in, coming out to the outside, and just grabbing this strand. It's easier to grab the strand than it is to chain. The chains tend to pull apart if you're just grabbing it by the chain and just pulling it through. So lift up the cuff, okay, and coming to the outside, okay, and what you want to do is just weave in the outside. So just coming in like that and just grabbing that piece of string and just pull through. You want to be strategic about this as well, and just pull through. Okay, and then just moving along. So these are what's going to customize it to your feet to hold it on if it's not snug enough for you. So again, just strategically placing them. You're not going to see where these are because the cuff is going to bury it. And then coming to the back. Okay, so I'm going to pop them out just opposite, just one stitch apart from each other. So you're going to notice that this one I'm doing now is slightly, it's almost the same size. Like that. So if it wasn't, all you just got to do is let some slack go, and so you can just fold down the cuff, fold in like this, and what you want to do is just trim these. So you just gotta just leave it a little bit there, okay, and do the other one. Make sure it's pulled nice and tight before you do that. Again, if you want to use a darning needle, if it makes you more happy, you can, and then you can just tie these. So what I would do is probably put them on your feet and then just tie them into the bow, and therefore you'll know it's going to fit you each and every time, and you should be able to slip your foot in and out without any issues at all. And this would be how you would do a moccasin, just like this. So now that your tie is done, what you want to do is that you just want to fasten this off, and you want to pull this yarn through just like that. So now you're going to use this yarn here to sew it into position. So all you're just going to do now is just fold it and just grab a darning needle. You will need a larger eye of a needle for this one because it is the pipsqueak yarn, and just feed it on through. It's not a big deal in order to do that. Just like that. So what we're going to do here is that we're just going to fold this down on the inside of the slipper. Okay, so it's already attached on the outside just like you see here. So we're just going to fold it in. And what I want to do is that I just want to get that first one sewn in. So I'm just going to fold it right over and then down in, and I'm just going to put the darning needle through the fluffy stuff here and right out to the outside of the fluffy here. Because you're using the same yarn, you will not see it. So you're just going to go back in through the outside here, and then just make sure that you go through the fluff on the inside right down in there. So what this is going to do, it's going to permanently attach this to the outside. So in to the fluff again, staying toward the bottom of the moccasin, and then back out to the fluff on the outside, so you don't even see where this is going in and out on the outside. So this is how you attach it, and that's it for today's tutorial on being able to make your moccasin. These are really quite easy to make, really it's not a big deal, and just continue to fold this in the inside and attach, and I'll be back in just a moment just to show you the final look. So once you get all the way around, you're just gonna create that, and you're just gonna tie it. So you're just gonna put it in again, and just make sure that you get a nice secure foothold there. And then if you put the yarn through 3 times, it'll never fall out on you. So just go 1, and then back in somewhere else but very close to it. This is 2, and back in again somewhere else but close to it, and 3. So therefore you can safely trim out that yarn now right to the base of the project, and you will never see where you started and stopped. So now you just got a shape and enjoy. So this is how you do these moccasins. They're really quite easy to make, really quite fun, and you can see it's a permanent attach around the outside here, and these are machine washable as well, so if you ever have a case to do so, you can rely on that to do that as well. So until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of the Crochet Crowd as well as Yarnspirations.com. Have a great day and enjoy your new set of slippers.